Alright, so here it finally is, the D&D 5th Edition Player's Handbook. Couldn't wait to get this. I did my video last week on the campaign settings, and I just want to take a quick moment to talk about that first, because there's something that I do feel that I need to clear. At the time, I thought Greyhawk was pretty much done for. It just wasn't supported very well. I mean, even in 3rd edition, with it being the default setting, it didn't really seem to get much focus outside of Dungeon Magazine, really, which kind of carried the Greyhawk brand more than the actual main story was, or the main releases did. So, you know, I thought it was done. I expressed that in the last video. The very next morning, I got this book and flipped to the back where it had all the deities, and there it was, Greyhawk deities, right after the Forgotten Realms, even before Dragonlance. So I may have been wrong. It looks like there could actually be a Greyhawk setting for 5th edition, and if there is, I'm really looking forward to it. So we'll see what happens there, but I admit I may have jumped the gun a little bit there, so, you know, I do apologize. It looks like Greyhawk may be supported after all. Alright, so last month I got the D&D starter set. You know, I did a video on that where I kind of reviewed the contents of it, and at the time I wasn't quite sure how I felt about the game itself. You know, I was kind of interested. It was more of a wait-and-see kind of approach, but I was at least intrigued. I can honestly say that after getting my player's handbooks in the mail, I was really pleased with what I've seen so far, and I'm really looking forward to actually running this. I don't think it's enough that it's going to replace, you know, 4th edition for me in terms of being my favorite setting, or a version of the rules, I should say, but, you know, if I'm going to run any other edition, I said before it's likely going to be 5th, and at this point, you know, if I do run anything other than 4th, then this is going to be it. You know, I can honestly say that I much prefer this over 3.5, and I've got a ton of 3rd edition books, so it's not like I'm talking to somebody who just bought the core books. So I even went and made a character, and I made a 4th level Elven Ranger, because Ranger's always been my favorite class. I like playing archers, so, you know, I was interested to see how that was, and it felt a lot more natural doing it using the books than it did with the PDF when I made the fighter for my playtest of some of the encounters in the starter set. So just take a moment to talk about the actual book itself. You know, the artwork is really nice. I mean, it's got a fantastic cover, and let's just see here. The first page has kind of, you know, I might be wrong on this, but this feels a lot like the Pathfinder books, where it's got some artwork, you know, underneath the title. So very similar style in my opinion, but what we have here, you know, shows the main cover art, and there's a little disclaimer, which I'm not going to read, but it's actually really clever, really funny, and as far as I know, the other core books are going to have this as well. So, you know, really, just you know, showing that they're not taking it, you know, too seriously, which I really like. And you got your standard, you know, races, classes. Then you got your backgrounds, personality, equipment, you know, adventuring, ability score, stuff like that. And then you have your appendix, which has, you know, conditions, gods of the multiverse, planes of existence, creature statistics. That's for things like when you shape change into something, or when you can summon things. And then the character sheet at the back. So, you know, the artwork, just take a moment to look at that. You know, there's some really nice art in this. The book itself is laid out, you know, really nicely. So, all in all, really looking forward to actually seeing this in use. You know, we got the different races, classes. Overall, really pleased with just the look of the book. It looks like a lot of, you know, attention to detail went into it. So, as far as the rules themselves go, it seems to be a little bit stripped down. It doesn't seem to be as complex or involved as 3rd edition or 4th edition, which in my opinion is kind of a good thing, especially where they want to focus more on, you know, role-playing and storytelling. So it's nice to see kind of a shift towards just having, you know, simple rules that work well. The only thing that I'm not entirely sure how I feel about so far is the advantage and disadvantage system. As it's presented now, I really like it. With advantage, if you have it, you actually roll 2 20-sided dice, and you take the higher of the 2 results. If you're at disadvantage, you roll 2 20-sided die for attacks, saving throws, spell casting, all that stuff, and you take the lower of the 2. So, you know, it's a nice system. I kind of like it better than the attacks of opportunity or opportunity attacks for everything like spell casting and using ranged weapons and stuff like that in melee. So it's not as bad as those mechanics kind of were. They have something called inspiration, and that's the thing I'm not sure about. Inspiration, basically, if you have it, then you can use it to have advantage on like an attack roll or saving throw or stuff like that. So I can see that, it's well intentioned, but I wonder how much it's going to be abused in the future. But the system itself seems pretty solid. The rules don't look like there's too many gray areas yet, but I haven't actually gotten a chance to test any of this in actual play yet, so I'm sure that will change. This is more of a first impressions, I guess, of how the system feels. Next week I'm actually on vacation and going down to my hometown and getting together with some friends, and we're gonna my old gaming group, and we're gonna basically test it out and run some 5th edition for them. So we'll see how it actually plays. But right now, I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels. Not quite ready to say that this is going to be my preferred version of the game, but it's more preferred over things like 3rd edition for me. So I'm looking forward to actually kind of testing it out. The spell system is a little different in this than the previous ones. And it took me a little bit to wrap my head around, because I was trying to figure out how many spells wizards can prepare, and it's in there, but it's a little bit buried in the description. So I think they prepare a number of spells equal to their level plus their intelligence modifier or something like that. And then you have spell slots that you can use however you want. So I kind of like that system. Before, I said I didn't see too many situations where you might use something like Magic Missile at higher level over something like Fireball or Lightning Bolt. But now where you only have so many spells that you can kind of have in mind, it's possible that might get a little bit more use than I thought it did. So, like I said, this is very early impressions. Just had a chance to skim through, put in a lot of overtime this week, so I haven't had a lot of time to actually focus on reading the books. But I like the classes. I like a lot of the ideas that are in there. If you never played 4th edition, if you didn't like the ideas, or the mechanics of that, and you're looking to do something different, you're a little tired of 3rd edition, then, do yourself a favor and get this book. It's fantastic. I think 5th edition is going to be a very solid version of the game, or at least I'm hoping it's going to be, and I'll talk more about that in a future video. So that's kind of my my impressions of the book. Like I said, very nice artwork. The rules are nice and simple, but very clearly defined. So, this is going to be, I think, something that I'm really looking forward to trying. We'll see how it goes. That being said, there is one issue that I want to talk about just a little bit, and that is the price point. And the price point, I don't know if you can see it there, but in US dollars, it's $49.95, $58 Canadian. And, I live in Canada. That's kind of steep. I mean, it's going to end up being, for just the player's handbook itself, after tax, is going to end up being, $62 or around there. Maybe a little bit less depending on which province you're in, but here it's around $62. That being said, I got this online. There's no local game shops in my area. I wish there were, but there wasn't. However, the price online was about 50% off. Or close, very close to. In fact, in the last couple of weeks leading up to the release of it, they actually did have a 50% off sale. So this version of the game could be bad for small independent shops, just where the online prices now are so much better and the deals are so good and so reasonable versus what they want you to pay cover price, that it could end up hurting the local gaming industry. I hope it doesn't. But, that's kind of a steep price, and if it weren't for the online discounts, I probably wouldn't end up getting it, just because, it's a fair amount of money for something I wasn't sure of. Now, all that out of the way, again, I think this is going to be a very solid version of the game. I do recommend it, highly recommend it, actually. As soon as I started reading it, the more I read, the more I liked. If I had to give it a score out of something, let's just say rate out of 10. Right now I'm going to give it about an 8.5 out of 10. I'd like to see it in action, see how the rules play out, but right now this is a very awesome book, and a good, as I said in the preview video, a good return to form if you weren't a fan of 4th edition. So that was the video for the player's handbook. After I do some actual playing of 5th edition with some friends, I'll do a more comprehensive retelling of the experience. But right now, just wanted to talk a little bit about the book. I love it so far. Might be sold on 5th edition. We'll see what happens after I test it out. So thank you very much for watching YouTube. I'll actually post another video here in another couple of days, because there's another book that I ended up getting that I want to talk a little bit about, and it's also for 5th edition. So I'll see you in a couple of days.